Hello, I'm Bookface.
Bookface.
Aliens. Questionable but educational.
He's gonna talk about yokai.
We suck.
This is your only.
Time to get extra spooky. Hello everybody, it's time for the greatest crossover of all time. Cue all those dead memes about Infinity War. So I'm doing another yokai video because the weebs. But all of them, it sounded like I did a dramatic pause. I just kind of forgot what I was saying for a second. All of them are actually the size that could, I think, classify them as being kaiju. Also, by the way, I looked up and apparently there's a term for kaiju that are, more realistically sized, like less Godzilla size and more like elephant or larger size. AKA like still really big, but feasibly big. And those are called kaibutsu. None of the ones I have today count as that, but I just thought that was kind of interesting. Another thing I found interesting, it doesn't actually look like there's any connection between the words yokai and kaiju, even though they both have kai, which is a little disappointing. I actually looked up the kanji versions of both the names, which, if you don't know kanji, well, first off, you're not a weeb. But it's just the Japanese letters that are sometimes words in themselves, and they're completely different. The similarities in English, I can combine into the YOKAIJU. I don't know if it sounds cool or lame, and I feel like that's perfect for my channel. I'm embracing my inner weeb by making this video. Just because I'm just fully committing to the whole, this is very Japanese stuff. I got a bunch of books on just yokai. I'm taking a deep dive into yokai in my own personal time, and boy, it's exhausting. You have to redefine all the rules of what you're researching, because Japan has a very specific set of rules for their creatures, which I cannot properly define, and yet I stand by my statement completely. Okay, now, Godzilla, step aside. You got some folkloric competition. Step aside, kaiju nerds. Now the other nerds are stepping in. The myth nerds. Is that what I should call my audience? The myth nerds. With all that, mostly just rambling out of the way, let's jump right in. Woo! First up we have the Gashadokuro, which are giant skeletons that walk around at night. And fun fact, this was actually the creature that inspired me to do the whole kaiju series in general, because I was trying to think, how would I describe a Gashadokuro? My dog is... I'm actually not in my recording studio. I'm just sitting in my room because my dog wanted to hang out, and I'm like, well, I can't let my dog down. So I'm just, if the audio sounds a little bit off, blame my dog. He just decided to be too cute. So basically, I was trying to figure out how I would describe a Gashadokuro, and my mind immediately went to kaiju skeleton. And wouldn't you know? It's a good thing I hadn't started watching Attack on Titan yet, otherwise this would be a very different series. Maybe, I don't know. This creature is recognizable by the sound of chattering teeth, but it doesn't always make a sound. You hear that, you know you're about to have a bad time. They were believed to sneak up on people traveling alone at night, and look, if you let a 100, 200 foot tall skeleton sneak up on you, I'd say you kind of deserve whatever you get. What, you got AirPods in or something? Bringing back all the dead memes. This video is a Gashadokuro of dead memes. If anyone understands that comparison, congratulations to you. You're a really big nerd. It would catch victims and crush them in its hands and then bite off the victim's head. I kind of just imagine them squeezing the victim's blood out, wringing out a towel, which is a very horrifying image. You just go to wring out a towel and you just hear a bunch of bones cracking. That's a weird towel. This creature was thought to be formed after hundreds of people die and rot without funeral rites, mainly victims of famine and fallen soldiers. These many bones would gather together in the whole restless, angry spirit thing and turn into this. So an army turns into this. So this creature is the Skeleton War. It was thought that a Gashadokuro could not actually be killed, but would simply just wear itself out over time, I guess by not eating enough. You see, this is why you gotta eat your Wheaties. If you're from Japan and your name is Wheaties, watch out. Watch out for the bones. My dog's getting tired of my crap. He's just going... I really hope that dog's sigh was audible in the recording. Next we have Akkorokamui, which comes from Ainu myth, who were the people of Japan before it was Japan. And at that point it was referred to as Akkorokamui. And a kamui is basically a godlike nature figure kind of thing. And given the similarity in the names, I'd say it's probably very much similar, if not the same, to the Japanese kami. But, you know, I have no confirmation of that, and I wouldn't even know how to begin that research, so I'm not going to. Name translates to string-holding kamui, with the term string-holding likely referring to the fact that it has tentacles. And I don't know why, but I find that oddly specific comparison in the translation to just be really funny. Just like trying to imagine describing an octopus without being able to use, like, scientific terms or modern understanding of, like, the different kind of biology of, like, what a tentacle is. Like, just describing what a tentacle is without being able to, like, actually define it. Being like, oh, it's like it's kind of like an arm, but it doesn't have a hand or any bones. And or maybe it's more like a tail. A really big tail. It's kind of like a string. You wrap a string around things, but the string is alive and it tries to kill you. I love the struggle of just not understanding how to describe an octopus and just being like, string! And I mean, fair enough, because my comparison, I had like some stuff written down, but I thought like, let me actually try to define what a tentacle would be without using any like the science jargon I do or the other stuff I know now. And like, it's not easy. Akkorokamui was thought to be a giant red octopus that was 10,000 square meters in size. First off, I appreciate the very specific measurements. That makes my job much easier. And also, this is about 10% larger than a football field. A whole football field of octopus. Some would say calamari. You don't eat this octopus. This octopus eats you. It was thought that it could swallow ships and even whales in one bite. Yeah, this octopus definitely eats you. Sailors were warned to avoid the water whenever the sky and the sea turned red. Yeah, ominous o'clock don't seem like the best time to be on the water. And if you did have to be on the water, you had to carry a scythe to protect yourself. Most ominous boat ride ever. Akkorokamui was revered as the god of Uchura Bay. And it was thought that it was once a giant spider called Yaoshikep, which I have no idea what that means. I was not able to find a translation, so just gonna assume it means giant spider. Maybe. As this giant spider, it enjoyed killing people a lot. Since, it killed a lot of people prayed for help, and the figure Repun Kamui, who's the god of the sea and also takes the form of an orca, interestingly enough, that's pretty cool, helped them out by making a giant wave and washing Yaoshikep into the sea. But once in the sea, it became an octopus. And I genuinely love the connection through the whole 8 limbs thing. Like, it's not a comparison I would ever think to make, but as soon as I read it, I'm like, oh, that makes sense. In the myth way. Giant spider turns to giant octopus, kills people every way. Either way. Either way. Last we have the Umibozu, a creature whose true form is unknown. Just makes my drawing a little easier to do, since I don't have to know what it looks like either. It was human in shape, with inky black skin, large round eyes, and a bald head. And it was only seen from the shoulders up. And it was actually kind of thought the reason that you only saw it from this angle is because it was that big. Like, that's all it can get out of the water. Think of like an iceberg. An iceberg has like, is it 1/7? The whole phrase tip of the iceberg, because I'm pretty sure it's 1/7 of the iceberg pokes out of the water while the rest is under it. Well, take it with this thing. Imagine you've got this giant bust of a creature the size of a giant ship. Imagine how much more is underneath the water. This is why the ocean scares people. Me being one of those people. It was thought that it was easily the size of a ship, if not much larger, and it would appear on calm nights and cause bad weather and rocky seas to pop up all of a sudden without any warning. And just to reiterate, this is utterly horrifying. Like, this would be my nightmare. Just on a boat, giant creature from the ocean, but also this weird uncanny valley vibe, and the fact that it has a face, but that's not a normal face. Eyes are too big, that it doesn't have any other features. It's just this dark looming face. I would just shut down if I encountered this thing. One of the scariest movies that I ever watched was The Grudge, because I hated just a face appearing in the darkness. That is a complete tangent, but Anyways, some say it was a somewhat ghostly creature, some even claiming that its origins or that it's just a giant version of an oceanic ghost in Japanese myth called the Funoyure. Others claim that it was actually big and serpentine below the water. So it's kind of like a giant mermaid. Don't you like mermaids? Don't you like mermaids? Some believe them to be the souls of drowned priests thrown overboard. And with how horrifying this is, I just want to take a moment to give this little funny anecdote I found while researching. So there are a lot of yokai that are compared to priests. The funny thing is, fairly consistently, I'm pretty sure the only comparison to a monk or a priest, I'm not sure if they're the same thing, is that they're bald. That is the connection. Basically, yokai legends have no problem cracking on bald people. Imagine seeing this giant thing rise out of the water, surviving it, and being like, freaking bald. You ain't got no hair. Loser. Now I'm going to live inland for the rest of my life. It was thought that when the creature came up to a ship, it would demand a barrel from the crew, and they would use this barrel to scoop water into the ship and sink it. Look, if this thing asked me for anything, I would not hesitate. Take my car, take my lunch money, take my hair, I've got so much of it, and you seem to be lacking a bit. And this can actually be counteracted by giving Umibozu a barrel with the hole in the bottom. And this creature was actually kept very mysterious simply because most encounters with this creature ends in death, which is a good example of what I like to call brute stealth. Can't tell anyone I'm here if everyone who saw me is dead. No witnesses. Then we have 3 giant yokai. It was interesting combining like ancient Japanese myth and modern Japanese pop culture in a way that really flowed well together. Like this one just like, even though obviously Umibozu, Akkorokamui, and Gashadokuro were not meant to be kaiju, because that's a much more modern term, they really fit very well and in very unique ways. Just giant mysterious creatures that just come up on you, and you just kind of have to get out of the way, because that's really the thing about kaiju is you don't really fight them, you get out of the way and hope they leave, or hope for a deus ex machina to win the day. I've not used the terminology win the day, I don't think, ever in my life, but I'm pretty sure it's a way people talk sometimes, so I'm going with it. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, comment down below, and subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye!